Hello, welcome to JenPenCreations. I'm Jen. Today I want to talk about side hustles and touch on a little bit of MLMs, just because I've been involved in several MLMs and they were considered my side hustles and stuff. But I've also done a couple of other side hustle things, and I want to talk about that. Side hustles and MLMs have been trending a lot, at least in my news feeds and stuff on my social media. I don't know about yours. Maybe it's just because I've talked about not having a job right now. There's a lot of those videos and those articles like popping up in my social media and my news feeds. So stick around and I'll get right to it. So, MLMs have actually been a part of my life since I was very young. I don't want this video to be about MLMs, but it was the first time I was ever introduced to a side hustle of that caliber. My whole life growing up, my aunt was the Avon lady. Back when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't even taboo to have an Avon lady, or a Pampered Chef lady, or a Tupperware lady. I mean, that's just the way life was. Everybody knew that there were MLMs around. They were the business of stay-at-home moms and military wives, right? The side hustle of business women. Like my aunt, she was actually a very prestigious businesswoman who worked in the admin offices at a very big company in the Midwest. I know that she is retired now, but when I was a kid, she was very high up there. She was a very prestigious office woman, and she also was the Avon lady. So that's where I was first introduced to side hustle type behavior. So as a child, I realized that there was potential in selling a product to somebody who has a need. So I know that using my little bits of knowledge about that as a child, I did all kinds of weird side hustles. My sisters and I, we would make popcorn. We found this giant tin. It was this big. It was huge. Of popcorn, of raw popcorn seeds, like popcorn kernels. And we knew how to make popcorn on the stove, so we just made a whole lot of popcorn. And we knew that it needed to be seasoned. I mean, my mom had spice racks galore and seasonings everywhere. So we just seasoned our popcorn with some seasoned salt, some Italian seasonings, I don't know, bunch of stuff, and put it all in little snack-sized bags and went up and down the street selling it for 50 cents a bag. We ended up selling our entire wagon full of popcorn. It was a one-time thing. It wasn't like we just made a popcorn business at 9-10 years old. We sold popcorn that one time and made a few extra bucks and went down to the candy store and bought some chocolate. I mean, we were kids. That was fun. And I'm pretty sure that was probably one of the first times I ever had a side hustle. We melted crayons and made baggies of crayons to sell to our friends. We did all kinds of weird stuff like that. As I got older, I learned that the harder I worked to sell a product, the more money I would make because the more sales I would make. So I started delivering the newspaper for our local paper, for our town's local newspaper. And delivering the newspaper worked out okay for me. I made some tips and stuff, but after a couple of years of delivering the newspaper, now I was able to start delivering the newspaper at 9. So after about 2 or 3 years of that, I noticed that most of my customers were starting to pay at the office. So what that meant was that they weren't paying me anymore. they were paying with a credit card directly to the newspaper, and I wasn't making any tips. Basically, I was delivering the newspaper for free to everyone. Even though the newspaper was making money off of my labor. I was not happy about that, and I was 11 years old. So I went to the newspaper and told them that I needed to make some more money. They put me on a crew of other kids, and they called it crewing. We were gonna go crewing. And it was basically just a group of kids going door to door, knocking on people's doors and selling the newspaper. Which, I mean, worked out great for us. We were 11 years old and making like, what was it, like $7 to $9 a sale, something like that. I mean, it worked out pretty good for us. We were always in teams of two. Going out and doing that. So that was a pretty good side hustle for me, especially since I was too young to get a traditional job. That worked out pretty good until weirdness happened, and I don't know, people get strange and we just didn't get along anymore. And so our crewing group of people just kind of split up, and we just didn't do that anymore. It just, things changed. Times changed, things changed, and we weren't selling the newspaper door to door anymore. And I needed to find a new way of making money. By the time everything was starting to change with the newspaper and we weren't really doing door-to-door sales anymore, cold calling wasn't working, things were changing over. It was like the mid-90s and things were changing over to digital. And not everything, but a lot of things. And like people had started paying with credit cards instead of paying with cash or checks. It was a time that we all had to adjust to. And I think a lot of us still have a hard time adjusting to that analog to digital transition that happened in the 90s, not the official analog to digital transition that happened in like 2010. Okay, or 2009 or something. I'm pretty sure it happened around 2008, 2009. The official analog to digital transition, like with TV and stuff, happened around there because I was working Dish Network at that time. So that was pretty rough. Now, after my childhood, I didn't really work side hustles until I was in college, or after I graduated college and realized my college degree was obsolete and would not get me a job. So I had to figure out some other way of making money. At the time, I was married to my second husband. He had a full-time job, so we were able to pay a lot of our bills like that, but me having an income really helped out with gas and groceries and stuff. So I really needed an income, even though I wasn't able to use the education I just spent $100,000 on. Well, I owe $100,000 for, which has gotten me nowhere in this world. So I don't even understand why we end up owing for this education that got us nowhere. That we were told was going to get us somewhere in this world, and it doesn't. It's so weird. But I needed to make some money. We still had young kids in school and stuff, and we needed money. We couldn't just survive on one income. So this is where the MLMs come in. This is when I started my side hustle with an MLM. I started selling Scentsy. Now, if you don't know what that is, Scentsy is a fragrance company that sells wax cubes and the warmers that melt the wax cubes, makes your house smell good. They sell candles, they sell diffusers, really anything that has to do with good smellies in your home. Okay. Me personally, I love anything that makes my house smell good. So I was a huge sucker for Scentsy. I understand the MLM platform sucks. And honestly, you're not going to make any money if you're just trying to sell a product and make money. Like, the most commission you can make off of the product itself without building any kind of team under you. Just selling the product for commission is 25%. That's it. As a certified consultant, once you sell $1,000 in your own personal retail volume. So you either buy $1,000 worth of retail or somebody else buys $1,000 worth of retail on your site or under your name as you as a consultant. Once you sell your $1,000, you can make 25% commission off of the products you sell. MLMs are trash. Some of them might have okay products, but it's nothing that you can't buy at the mall, at Walmart, Target. I mean, you can go to these other places and get the exact same stuff. Way cheaper, and you don't have to worry about building a downline. During the time that I was selling Scentsy, I had a friend who also signed up to sell Scentsy, and this friend also sold other things, handmade stuff and jarred honeys and stuff. So we ended up going into business together, not with our Scentsy or anything. She sold her Scentsy under her business. I sold my Scentsy under my business. And we worked together to sell the other products in our business that were not MLM products in any way. That was probably one of the best side hustles I ever had. That was when we were doing farmers markets, we were doing flea markets, we were doing vendor shows. I was a vendor for over 10 years of my life. And honestly, it was probably the best side hustle I ever had. Well, it was the most fun side hustle I ever had, that I ever did. Scentsy was part of it because as I had a shop selling this other stuff, I could advertise my Scentsy and I had a lot of customers because people like stuff that make their homes smell good. I think that's why Scentsy's been around for 20 years. I mean, when I started selling Scentsy, they had only been around for about 8 years when I first found Scentsy and started selling them. I personally think that I would have done better as an independent salesperson with Scentsy had Scentsy had the business model of us being able to buy wholesale in bulk and sell it in our own stores and label it, say, hey, we carry Scentsy. But we were not allowed to do that. Now that I'm not a consultant, I have a whole lot of warmers left over that I could probably sell in a store if I were to open a shop or something, like a flea market shop. I could easily sell them now. I'm no longer a consultant with Scentsy. I don't know, buying and selling stuff buying at wholesale and selling it at a higher price, that is what most shops do. That's how you run a business. That's a pretty good side hustle. It'll make you some pretty good money. You can actually survive doing that as long as you're willing to put in the long hours and the work. You're going to be putting in a whole lot of work for the basic return. It's not always going to be good, but it's not always going to be bad. Some days you're going to have huge returns. Other days, they're just not going to be so good. So that was one of my favorite side hustles. Scentsy was also one of my favorite products. I don't like MLM, the whole MLM setup, but I love Scentsy products. And honestly, when I see a Scentsy person out at a show or something, if I go to a vendor event, sometimes, most of the time, I'll buy wax. Just because I really love the product. I wish that they sold their product a different way. I don't know if that makes sense, but I really love their products and I wish that they sold them at stores. I wish that I could buy them wholesale and sell them in a shop of my own. That would be fantastic if I could just run a fragrance shop and Scentsy be part of it. That would be amazing. But they don't do that. So it makes me sad, and I have to get bombarded by a Scentsy consultant every time I buy Scentsy because they're still trying to build their downlines. And I am not wanting to be a part of that MLM structure. I'm A-okay buying the wax. I love it. I love the warmers. I love the products. I hate the business model. It is not okay. Which kind of leads me to where I'm at right now. I'm not selling a product. I'm not in a MLM anymore. I buy products from MLMs because there are MLMs out there that I really do love their products. Like I said with Scentsy, I don't run the business end of that. I just like the product. Now I need to make money though. And how am I going to make money? I need a new side hustle that's not MLM related. And I really think that I'm super done with the vendor scene. I had trauma happen and the vendor scene is just no bueno these days. So what did I do? I went to Uber, decided I was going to download their Uber driver app and make a couple of deliveries because I don't really want people in my car. So I'm not going to clean out my car enough to be an Uber driver. But I could be an Uber Eats delivery driver, and they have this thing called Shop and Go or something. So people can order stuff from stores like convenience stores, grocery stores, Dollar Trees, and your Uber driver can go and buy it and bring it to you. So I tried it. Okay, I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to doing anything new. And I downloaded the app. I jumped through all their hoops, took my picture, did everything that I needed to do, gave them my car, my insurance, all of that stuff. Was approved to deliver for Uber for probably a month and a half before I ever even opened the app to start delivering. I did last week, and I want to tell you about it. I was pretty disappointed, but I think that it has a lot to do with the fact that gas prices have gone significantly higher than they had been in the past couple years, actually. Gas prices are just outstanding right now. And where I live and the Uber app directional citywide whatever space that I'm supposed to be driving in is huge. Now, I'll tell you, I was online delivering for probably 3.5 hours. Yeah, roughly 3.5 hours. With the tips that I made about, in tips, in about 3.5 hours, I made maybe $20. No, $16 or something. But with the tips and the fare, okay, with everything all together, after everything was said and done, I went offline. I ended up with about $25 from Uber. Now, before I started, I put $15 worth of gas in my car. Now, mind you, I made 4 trips. 4. I wanted to make sure that people's food was hot, so I did not take trips in between the one trip that I was going on, because I hate it when I order my food and it shows up at my door cold because 3 other people got their food before my house was gotten to. I'm not okay with that. So I want to be a different kind of Uber driver. I want to be the one that delivers you hot food. The moment I get it, I go straight to your house. I don't have 3 other stops to make before your food comes to your house from the restaurant. I don't want to do that to people because that's been done to me and that really sucks. So I took 4 orders. Drove all over, back and forth all over the city, used $15 in gas. I had the same amount of gas in my car at the end as I did before I put gas in the car before I started. So I used $15 in gas, and the whole trip, the whole thing, all of it costed me $15, a headache, and all I made was $25 at the end. So I made $10 in 4 hours. I feel like that's just not worth it for me. I did learn a couple of things, like, there are ways to see where you're picking things up in respect to where you're dropping it off and stuff like that. And I had to really start paying attention to that and figure that out, it still just didn't seem like it was worth it for me. However, my boyfriend did tell me that I really should give it a try again. Maybe go during some peak hours or something. I have a tendency to not do that because my time of day that I have to do anything is usually between like noon and 3 p.m. So I have a good 3 to 4 hours to do stuff, and that's it during the day because I have other things that I'm doing. I have chickens to take care of, I have videos to make, I've got grandbabies to take care of, and I just don't have time. I am going to give it another try. I will let you guys know if it's successful or not, but I was severely disappointed the other day with Uber Eats. So if you guys have any other side hustles that might actually work, hit me up, let me know. Making money is something we all really need to do these days because there's not much of it going around and bills keep stacking up. They don't go away. I'd really like to thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope that you enjoyed my stupid rant about the side hustles I've tried in my life. Some things worked, some things didn't. I would like to go back to the vendor scene, but I think that that's just done for me. Maybe this Uber Eats thing might actually work out. I am going to give it another try. So chime in the comments. Let me know what you think. Tell me about a side hustle that's worked for you. I might try it because at this point I'm willing to try anything. I hope that you have a wonderful day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.